Bitcoin cleared 35,000 today for the first time in more than a year as speculation continues about approvals of a possible spot Bitcoin ETF. For more on everything crypto related, we welcome in Adam Blumberg of Interaxis. Adam, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks for having me on, Caroline.
So Bitcoin not quite at 35,000 anymore, trading closer to 33,500 right now. But is it just speculation that got it to as high as 35,000? What was behind the rally?
Well, I think we're all waiting for that announcement of a Bitcoin spot ETF. Hopefully that will come pretty soon. But I think there was some speculation. We saw yesterday there was a iShares Bitcoin spot ETF listed on DTCC, and everyone thought maybe that means the announcement's coming any moment now. And I think that's what got some excitement. I think BlackRock also announced yesterday that they were going to start seeding their ETF possibly as early as this month. So the idea that there's going to be some demand there, maybe the spot Bitcoin ETF is going to be approved in the very near future before January, I think fueled some speculation and, bumped the prices up.
So you know the old adage, buy the rumor, sell the news. So if this is buying the rumor, what happens when we actually get the news?
Well, I think this, and again, this is my opinion, I'm not giving anyone financial advice, but I think in this case, the news is actually going to cause even more of a demand. And if we go to the way Bitcoin actually works, most of us that are in kind of the crypto Bitcoin world know that there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin created. There have already been 19,500,000 that have already been created. And therefore, when we do have an announcement, my assumption, and I think a lot of people's assumption is, we're not just going to have one approval. We're going to have, 8 or 9 Bitcoin spot ETF approvals, and those companies are going to have to go buy Bitcoin. There's only so many of them available. The likes of course, MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor. He's probably not selling any of his. There are several people that have been holding Bitcoin for years. I think we're at a record high of like 70% of Bitcoin haven't moved in over a year. So you're going to have a relatively limited supply of Bitcoin available to fuel the demand for those Bitcoin spot ETFs. So in this case, I think it's separate from, where we do say buy the rumor, sell the news when it comes to something like equities. In this case, where we do have a very fixed, limited supply, and even smaller supply that's going to be available to sell to those ETF companies and market makers, I think this is going to be a case where, likely we see the price actually shoot up significantly because the demand from those ETFs is going to be pretty high.
What does shooting up significantly look like in terms of an actual price target? Do you think it goes back to the old highs? Does it go to 100,000, some of these really lofty highs that we used to hear about?
Well, Caroline, I'm not big on giving price targets. I've said before, though, on whether it's on X or on LinkedIn or wherever I've been, I could see it doubling that day. Excuse me, I could see Bitcoin doubling that day. And again, the reason is just simple supply and demand. So many people aren't going to be willing to sell their Bitcoin for a 10% or 20% increase when they know that there's potentially, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars coming into these spot ETFs, and they all have to go buy Bitcoin as well. So I could see a doubling of the price. Again, I'm not giving a price target. I'm not telling you, from a financial perspective, what to go do. But I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility to see a doubling of the price the day that the ETFs are announced. Because again, I don't think there will be one ETF approved. I think there will be several ETFs approved, and they are all going to have to, have enough Bitcoin to satisfy the demand.
All right. Well, doubling of 33,500 would get us basically in line, maybe above the old high. So I can sort of do the math here. But, just in terms of other cryptocurrencies, should we, it seems like it's Bitcoin and then everything else. We used to talk more about Ether and Cardano and Solana and all of those. But are there any other cryptocurrencies that we should be having on our radar right now?
I think ETH should be on the radar as well, at least. And the reason is because a few companies have already filed ETH spot ETF applications. We saw Grayscale, I think yesterday, submitted the application to probably eventually convert their ETH trust into the ETH spot ETF. So I think once there's a Bitcoin spot ETF approval, there will likely be an ETH spot ETF approval shortly thereafter. So I think that's probably another one to look at. And as we've seen, Caroline, as Bitcoin goes, so much of crypto goes. ETH is by far and away the second largest, the second most used, and we're seeing quite a bit of actual adoption of the Ethereum network. So it's actual use cases that are happening. We've heard the likes of Larry Fink talking about how BlackRock is going to tokenize assets, and they might be using the Ethereum network. We've seen PayPal with their stablecoin on Ethereum. So we're actually seeing the use cases on the Ethereum network, and that can also significantly drive the value of Ether. So between a potential spot ETF on ETH, plus the growing adoption, the growing use cases of the Ethereum network, I think we should see some more demand for ETH in the near future as well.
All right, well, we'll have to wait and see. Adam Blumberg of Interaxis, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on, Caroline.